about a year ago, in March, I got a phone call from the union. TJ called me and said, there's an explosion in New Mexico and Belinda wants to talk to you about hydrocarbons and hash making and all that stuff. Some kid blew themselves up and killed themselves, and now OSHA's involved and they need to know more about the hash making process, especially the hydrocarbons, butane. So I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And I introduced him to JD from Skunk Pharm Research, who kind of wrote the Bible on the DIY hash making and concentrate making. And through that interaction, Belinda said that the Department of Health and Human Services had been allocated some money to do some workplace health and safety research into the cannabis industry. Belinda thought that we would be the perfect match because we're kind of like how pot farmers started. We grow organic cannabis and organic vegetables, and we live a lifestyle. And they thought that was the perfect introduction for the federal government to have into cannabis instead of taking it to some big indoor grow. You never say no in this cannabis industry this early. I got a call asked to be on a conference call with 10 agents from the CDC. And when I got on the call, right off the bat, they knew nothing about cannabis. So I said, well, why don't you come on out and we'll give you a tour of the community, the industry, and I'll introduce you to all my friends. We'll show you how the equipment work. We'll educate you on cannabis. So it was a mixed bag on getting the community to really jump in. I mean, they were all for it, but the lawyers were scared to death. So, but we weren't afraid because we have nothing to hide and we haven't done anything wrong. We're not mailers, and I'm not a baller running stuff across borders and, all over the place. I don't have time for that. It's a long game for me. It's not the short game. You're the first video crew that actually got it, except for
really?
me. I've been documenting with my little camera, but. So that is sunflower terpenes, all right? That's another guy, you little guy. We had to go through DOJ clearance and all that kind of stuff, and they made our farm a secure location where federal agents can learn and touch and handle cannabis because they were going to be coming here 2 different times. So the first time we kind of showed them what's going on in the industry. We did some trimming for them and machine trimming and stuff, and they toured my garden and saw all my cannabis plants, and we showed them how we were working with them and the fertilizers that I used, and so they'd be ready when they came back in October for the actual HHE, health hazard evaluation, for the first one in the cannabis industry. When they came back in October, we harvested. I had 10 plants left, and we spent the whole day harvesting and big leafing and then prepping them for drying. The second day we set up was all shucking, and the last day was trimming. Well, they set us up with a glove that checked repetitive motion that was hooked up to their computer, so they started collecting data on this. So I brought in a bunch of trimmers, all the way from my most skilled friends that are professional trimmers, all the way to newbies, We got a letter from the Department of Health and Human Services, and they gave us the first test results of any cannabis testing between a government agency and a private cannabis farmer. So that in itself was,
pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, I'm pretty thankful to be. Being an activist and stuff, it was really my responsibility to break the stigma about cannabis and normalizing cannabis. So what we did to start off with was we did a couple dabs, and they were sitting over there, and we smoked a couple joints, and then pretty much we went over there and said, now we're going to educate you. That was our opportunity to really break the stigma that we're not a bunch of lazy stoners. It was pretty epic. How I would defend the plan is to just say, educate yourself. Go out there and read and do some real education. And I guarantee you already know a couple people that like to get high or medicate themselves, and they're not bad people. We're actually pretty good people, and we're not harmful, and we're definitely not crazy, and alcohol's way more dangerous than cannabis.